Is the Sigma 100 to 400 worth considering if you use a Sony camera with the MC11 adapter? Stay tuned to find out. If you don't know me already, I go by That One Camera Guy. I do tutorials, guides, and reviews on Sony mirrorless equipment and gear. Make sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification, and smash that like button if you enjoy the content that I've been producing. So the reason why this video came up in the first place is because there was a lot of interest, especially for a cheaper alternative for a 100 to 400 G Master from Sony. Now the reason why there's been so much interest about this topic is because I've really fallen in love with the Sony 100 to 400 G Master, but it's really out of the price range of a lot of individuals. So I had some suggestions, and I know there was quite a few, and I haven't had a chance to try all of them out. The Tamron 100 to 400, there's also the Sigma 150 to 600, there's two versions of those. So there's definitely other lenses to consider in this particular type of category of long telephoto zoom lenses. So this one comes in at about $7.99 retail. It might be a little bit cheaper depending on if there's a sale, but this was an actual interesting one for me because the Sigma MC11 adapter typically works really well with these combinations for the most part. I'm not saying they're going to be perfect, but I went ahead and tested this combination out. Unfortunately, I didn't get to shoot any like sporting events to really try it out, and I don't think there's going to be any other ones I'll be able to get to before I have to send the lens back in lens rental. But I do have birds that fly in my backyard, so I did go ahead and test it out in birds in flight. Now, initially, I just want to be clear, I'm not an expert at birds in flight shooting. It's not my particular genre, but I just sort of apply what I know already in terms of my knowledge with taking photos, especially with moving subjects, and I applied it in this kind of situation. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you sort of the summary of what I've sort of learned having used the 100 to 400 Sigma and the Sony 100 to 400, who it's for and what you should get. So it's kind of like a quick summary. First of all, if you are a casual shooter and you need reach on your Sony camera, and for example, you picked up the A7 III, for example, this is a really great choice for you if you're budget conscious and you just need a 100 to 400 that's going to give you good reach. I found that the sharpness on the images were actually really good, especially at a variety of different ranges. So if you're casually shooting and you just need that reach, the Sigma is a really great alternative option. If you're looking into shooting photos, maybe action sports for your kids' games, and you do a lot of daytime things where it's like Little League, baseball, softball, soccer, all of those types of activities that are outside, and you picked up, for example, the Sony A7 III, using the MC11 adapter, you're going to get some really decent results. And that's just my take, but just again, there's a stress. I haven't had the actual chance to shoot, aggressively any type of sports, but just birds in flight. And my experience with shooting like the birds in flight gave me some confidence in the actual autofocusing system and the performance that you would get with this system. It's just you're going to have to finesse it a little bit. Then finally, for those of you who are shooting paid gigs, paid opportunities, and are working professionally, should you get the Sigma 100 to 400, this particular lens here? And my answer for you is no. Don't get this lens if you're shooting at an environment where your autofocus is extremely important and you're being paid for your work. Only those of you who are doing casual shooting will you find the benefit. Granted, this might all change when you don't need the MC11. If a full frame FE version, right, if Sigma releases a native version for this for the Sony mount, you probably won't need to worry about those things. The autofocus I found was actually very good with the MC11 adapter and this one after I made some adjustments. You're going to have to do some customization with the Sigma lens, with the software. There's an option for a faster autofocusing speed and also a different optical stabilization mode. So I set C1 for, because they have that custom option, I set C1 for shooting better in terms of performance, and then I set C2 to modes that were more conducive for video recording. So for those of you that wanted smoother autofocusing, better optical stabilization when you're recording video, there's some options inside of the Sigma app that will allow you to set your camera to perform better in those conditions. So I did notice a difference from shooting birds in flight from C1 and C2. So when I was using those two different modes, C1 definitely performed better. So I can definitely see that there is an impact in performance from putting those custom options. But here's the thing that really surprised me. I used the A7 III to go in and shoot birds in flight, and I found the autofocus just blew me away. Now I don't shoot this kind of stuff day to day, and so I went and shot with lock-on AF wide, and so I sort of just let the autofocus decide what to focus on. And it blew me away when the camera is able to track a subject, a tiny speck in the sky, and the dots just bounce around everywhere, tracking the subject as it goes. Now in terms of focusing speed, the camera isn't very fast, but once it kind of finds the range of where the bird is, for example, it sticks with it. Now if I did a successive 10 shots, I might get like 3 shots in focus or something like that, right? I'm just out of just talking about it. But it wasn't as if I felt that the camera and the lens couldn't get the job done. It's kind of what I would say. You could do it. With enough practice and understanding how the lens works, you can definitely get a really good image, and even sharp images you can see in some of the examples. Well, they look sharp to me based on how the results that I got. When it came to using the 100 to 400, so I used this next, I wanted to get sort of like a benchmark. What was sort of the benchmarking point for this? What was good and what wasn't good? The Sony native lens is a lot faster, it's a lot smoother, and I don't have to worry about these weird sort of inconsistencies when shooting at 400 millimeters. So let me go ahead and talk about that now. When I was first using the Sigma lens, I noticed that it was really slow to focus when I was at 400 millimeters, and some of you in the comments in the previous video confirmed that for me. It was a tad bit slow, and in some cases it wouldn't focus at all. So the technique was, it wasn't to shoot at 400 millimeters. You would want to go around 300 millimeters, so shoot a little wide, use your autofocus on your lens, and then eventually it'll quickly acquire focus, and then go ahead and zoom into 400 and then go ahead and take your photo. So you kind of have to finesse the autofocusing system on the Sigma in order to get your photography and autofocus to work. Now granted, a lot of folks may not like that, but it's one of those things you just work around with, and with enough practice it becomes second nature. So I was doing that a lot, just shooting casually, and I was really surprised with the autofocusing speed, because initially I was always shooting at 400, wouldn't get focus, so I'd pull back a little bit and then zoom into 400 and take my photos, and I was really surprised at what I was able to accomplish and get as far as image quality. So that's what I have to say about it. But when it came to the Sony 100 to 400, obviously I didn't have that issue at 400 millimeters. If I held the autofocus down, it would focus at 400 millimeters, and it was very quick to focus. So my question that runs through my mind is it 3 times more better, right? Because it's 3 times the price. So you definitely get some added benefits. So let's talk about some of the ergonomic features. You don't get a tripod collar with this lens, so you're putting a lot of stress on the actual mount of the camera, especially if you have it on a tripod. So that could be a definite no on this, especially if you want to use a tripod to shoot with it. I think it's okay. It might not be the best solution for it. Obviously, if you use like a Metabones adapter, you have like a little mount, tripod mount that you can use with it. But for this kind of shooting with the MC11 adapter, you don't have a tripod mount, so you're going to have some strain on the actual mount of this camera. Not sure if that's something you're personally going to want. So something to think about, unless there's third-party solutions that I'm not aware of. Then with this one, you do get the tripod collar. It's removable. You can have a little bit more control over it when you're using it on a tripod. That's something to keep track of. Another thing something I do like about the Sigma lens is the zoom ring. Yes, it's in the front and it's kind of inverted. It's a little jarring at first. You just have to train yourself to kind of know what to do. But I actually like the zoom ring on the Sigma versus the zoom ring on the Canon. I know it's crazy, right? It's very smooth when you have it on. Okay, put it this way. It's not like smooth. It's still rough. When you're zooming in with the lens, it's kind of slow, right? It's kind of hard for me to finesse my focusing. But with this one, it's quick. I can move it, get to my spot, zoom back out, no problem. Again, personal choices. The other one has a little more granularity with the Sony. And then finally, the Sony has sort of a little bit of an advantage in its f-stop. You go from 5.6 on this one, and it's 6.3 on the other one. I don't think it's going to be a major disadvantage in my opinion, but just something to keep in mind. It's like a third of a stop or so difference in light gathering capability. So there you go. That's my thoughts on this particular lens, but let's go ahead and just review some things to keep in mind. The cost of this lens, like I said, is around $699, $799, depending on when you get it. You are going to have to get the MC11 adapter, hopefully you get it during a sale, and then you may need the actual Sigma USB dock. So let's just say you're looking at about $1,000 on the overall cost of this lens. It's still going to be cheaper than the Sony version here. But like I say, I think the best thing to do at this moment is just wait for an FE version of this. If you are in the need right now of a more affordable 100-400, however, I think this is a really good compromise for the time being. And furthermore, Sigma does do mount conversions in the future, so if this ever becomes an FE version, you can send it in to get mount converted. There is a cost, obviously, to do that. But if you're urgently in need of one, you have the A7 III, for example. This combination will be suitable for casual shooters and parents that are just shooting some of their kids' outdoor activities if you're using something like the A7 Mark III. That's what I gotta say for it, folks. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions, and your maybe background using the lens down in the comments below. Would you buy this as a Sigma MC11 with the adapter, or would you get it as an FE mount? Would you be willing to wait till the end of the year to pick this up? I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Once again, don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell notification, and smash that like button if you've been enjoying my content. And with that said, I'm your host, That One Camera Guy, and I will catch you on the next video. Peace.
I left my heart in California. I let it go deep into the blue. I could be happy in California. I would be fine with just me and you. Now don't